this is Felissa Rose. I'm Angela from Sleepaway Camp, and you're listening to Rock Video Rental.
Hey everybody, welcome to Rock Video Rental. I am Brandon. With me as always is Caleb, and we are continuing on with Rocktober 5. And today we're going to be talking about Popcorn. It is from 1991 and is directed by Mark Harrier and Alan Hornsby. The plot: a master of disguise deranged killer begins killing off college students who are organizing a horror movie marathon in an abandoned theater. The cast, we got Jill Schoelen as Maggie, Tom Villard as Toby, Dee Wallace as Suzanne, Derek Rydell as Mark, Malcolm Denaire as Bud, Elliot Hirsch as Leon, Kelly Jo Minter as Cheryl, and Freddie Simpson as Tina. I've seen this movie quite a few times. I have it on Laserdisc, of all things.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I have a DVD of it. I might. That might be the only way I own that movie.
Mhm.
Kind of random. Um, I remember this is a movie that I watched really early on in Netflix streaming.
Okay.
Like when Netflix streaming was in its infancy, I remember watching Popcorn on there. And I know it was a first time watch for you.
Yep, it was.
It's kind of a little overlooked movie, um, because it is a slasher from 1991, and 1991 didn't have very many decent slasher movies in it. The subgenre kind of died in the late 80s, so there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of them anymore until the whole boom in the mid to late 80s when Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer came out. Um,
Rock.
yeah. So, I've got some interesting things to cover with some of the people in this, but uh, this movie starts off like really trippy.
Hmm.
I forgot that they intro to this like with the weird dream that Maggie has, and it's really like kind of creepy.
Yeah. But
It
it
like comes
just,
out of nowhere.
yeah, starts right away. And
Yeah,
yep.
and and then it cracks me up because how we're introduced to characters. Like, so she tells her mom about her dream, and she's got this thing going on too. Like, anytime she has a dream or a vision, she talks into a tape recorder because she's trying to come up with ideas for a movie script.
Hmm.
Which I mean, it's a little strange, but you're having these weird visions with like a killer saying things to you and like all this stuff and your ideas to make it into a script. Okay. Um, and that's kind of how we meet her mom because she's talking to her about it. And then we meet the boyfriend because he runs up and almost eats her face. I think that was a really aggressive kiss he gave her. Like he almost tackles her. But uh and then after that like, she goes like this her to her class and then they got this idea to show like these movies and in an old theater like, oh, show these old like monster horror movies, sci-fi. So that's kind of the whole plot of the movie, how they're setting that up, running that, and then things go wrong.
Yeah.
So,
And they choose to do it with only 3 weeks to get ready.
right, to prepare all the to fix up this abandoned theater, which somehow the projector still works
Yep.
and like the screen's not torn.
And they implement all these like practical effects.
Yeah. All these like gimmicky things that like there's a director from the 60s, I think, maybe late 50s. His name was William Castle, and he was one of those where it's like, oh, you got to sign this uh release form saying that if you have a heart attack and die during the movie that like we're not it's not our fault kind of thing. Like this movie's so scary and um vi buzzers and vibrators, vibrating seat cushions and stuff for movies, and people planted in the crowd like freaking out and everything. that was kind of his whole thing
Hmm.
of making like the whole movie experience like part of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was kind of ahead of his time with that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what they try to do in this, and I feel like this movie is kind of like an homage to him
Okay.
with like all these ideas, and the movies are really reminiscent of his movies. And I will say that like this movie took time to make three different uh gimmicky movies that looked like they're from the 1950s.
Wait, those weren't real movies?
No.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. Like they did a great job.
They did
Especially
do.
that mosquito one
Yeah.
was like dead on because that woman, the main character in that, she looked like a 1950s actress.
She totally did. And also like the filming and everything. Dude, I legit thought I was just like, wow, that's surprising that they were able to use this much footage from some of these movies.
Yeah, they didn't just like take the easy way out and just get some movies that are in a public domain. Like they definitely made those shots just for this movie,
That
which
is wow, kudos,
yeah,
credit.
which couldn't have been cheap.
Yeah.
But I will say that's one of the positives in this movie. Um, some of the other positives, I like Jill Schoelen a lot. I always like her in the movies that she's in, but I don't think this is her best back acting job.
Okay.
And sometimes like her voice, she has such like a soft, higher pitched voice. How to explain her voice? It's like really it's soft and smooth, I guess. Where she has a
It's
it's
like molasses coming out your
just
mouth.
falling out of your mouth like Savannah.
Southern
Um,
drawl. No, definitely
but
not that.
she no, but it's like she has a hard time emoting with the voice that she has.
Yeah, she was she was pretty monotone.
Yeah, for sure. Coming from someone who's monotone, I agree with that. But she's always likable, I guess. Any movie I've seen her in, this might be the first movie you've seen her in, but
I'm not sure.
she
I'd have to. She looked familiar. I had to look at her filmography to know, but
yeah, she's in a few other slasher movies. She was in Cutting Class with Brad Pitt.
okay.
Um, she was in The Stepfather, which is a criminally like underrated movie. That movie's great. Um, and she was also in The Phantom of the Opera that I watched not too long ago. It's got Robert Englund as the Phantom in it,
Hmm.
which this one's kind of a like almost borderline a Phantom of the Opera kind of movie too. So it's kind of interesting. But oh, a funny story about Jill Scholl, because I told you the other day that I had a an interesting story about her.
Yeah.
So her career kind of took off at this time, after like the success of The Stepfather and everything. And she was actually engaged to Brad Pitt
Oh, okay.
in the early 90s. And she went off to Hungary to film a movie. I believe it was the Phantom of the Opera movie with Robert Englund. Um, I'm not like 100% sure on that, but they would talk on the phone and she was saying like how much she missed him and how she was lonely. And Brad Pitt said he only had $800 like to his name
Hmm.
and he spent 600 of it getting a ticket from Los Angeles to Hungary to see her.
Oh man.
When he got there, he went like straight to the set that she was filming and then they went out to dinner. And then while they're at dinner, she like told him that she fell in love with the director and that she broke up with him. So like the
No.
dude spent he only has $200 to his name and he drives or he flies all the way to Hungary. So now he's only got like $200 left. Like I don't know how he got back.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so then he said he's like that he stood up and he's like, I'm out of here and left. And then he said he spent the night in Budapest sitting on a bench, just chain smoking. And then there was like a local bum that he talked to.
Oh
They
my
said that he
gosh.
couldn't really speak English that well. And he says that
Wow.
he's like that was like a really pivotal moment in his life, and like it was things like that that once he had success that he could look back on. I feel like
Hmm.
that was like one of the lowest parts of my life, and like it made him gain appreciation for what he had. Because it wasn't
Interesting.
too long after that, like his career took off too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that had to be around that time. And man, how must she feel? Like,
Yeah, like how what a savage. Here, come to Hungary and spend $600 to get here, and then I'm just gonna break up with you. I mean,
man,
one thing, at least she like broke up the engagement in person and not over the phone. But at the same time, like to have him spend pretty much what he had left in money to come out there,
yeah,
it's a bit brutal.
yeah.
But all that aside, I thought she was decent in the movie. Like I said, maybe not her best acting job, but she's still very likable. But I'll tell you who was great was Tom Villard as Toby. Like the dude was
Yes.
going for it in this movie.
Oh my gosh, yeah, dude. I mean, so maybe jumping ahead a little bit here, but like this was well done from the fact of like I did not really know where it was gonna go.
Yeah,
And so I don't know, it kind of felt like they put it right in front of you on being like, oh, this is the guy, like he's still alive and he's doing all this. But then they successfully pulled off the twist
yeah,
and like dude, Toby went all in. It's very interesting because I got very strong Fade to Black vibes from this movie.
yeah, yeah.
Um
With the different disguises.
well, the disguises, the obsession with movies and cinema,
Hmm.
but also the performance by Toby was making me think of the guy from Fade to Black, how he's very much oh man.
Animated.
Yeah, animated, and he was kind of like becoming theatrical
Yeah.
in what he was doing, and that's essentially what Toby was doing at the end. And so I just saw a lot of similarities from that.
Well, he
So
has that whole monologue too, where he's like switching faces
yeah.
once he has her like in his lair or whatever.
Hmm.
And he's like explaining like how he was in this fire and the one that her mom and her got out of, and he was horribly disfigured, and now he has to like he makes like these prosthetic faces that he wears, and he's switching from one to the other, and it's like obviously it's constantly switching actors at this point, but and just like the raw emotion that comes out into it, and when he's like yelling and like you almost like feel his pain and you feel bad for him a little bit, but at the same time he's still the bad guy.
Yeah.
He's like killing people. That was one thing that really stood out for me the first time I watched this movie. I'm like, wow, this is like really good acting for a slasher movie.
Right. Well, also it made me think of like I don't necessarily think this was intentional, but it kind of made me think of a contemporary take on Phantom of the Opera almost.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
there's a lot of similarities in that. I kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier with Jill Schoelen, how she was in this, and then she was in the Phantom of the Opera remake.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just the similarities in that. It's kind of funny that she was in both of them.
Mhm.
But yeah, this that whole monologue that he drops is just it's it's really good. And what I liked most about this movie is that it is a little derivative. You know, like you said, Phantom of the Opera. It's got some of that in it. Um, I didn't even initially think of Fade to Black, but once you said that, I can definitely see it.
Mhm.
And then it's like the idea of like all the, it's got a lot of slasher, 80s slasher elements in it, but it's kind of like a mixture of almost two movies where it's got like it's, at first it seems like a movie that's a little self-aware and is making fun of the parody of like slasher movies.
Okay.
But then at the same time, it's also like pretty derivative and it takes a lot of tropes that are normally done and they take them seriously in this. Like
Mhm.
let's walk into a dark room.
Yeah.
because we hear someone's voice like, oh, we don't realize when he kills Tina and he's basically Weekend at Bernie's or doing a Bernie Lomax at her. He's like moving her around like a puppet and everything, and no one thinks anything of it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of an interesting mix, and maybe that's why it didn't do very well. Plus, it was a little came out a little late because it's 1991. If it sort of came out in like 1987, it might have been better.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a very 80s 90s movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So some more things that kind of stood out to me. Uh, the music. Yikes. Some
Yeah.
of it's so bad. The oh, what is it? Friday night at the movies or whatever. Saturday night at the movies. I don't know what that song is,
It was like some
but
Jamaican jam.
yeah, but it's a complete rip-off of Under the Boardwalk by the Drifters. If you listen to it again, um, keep that song in mind. You'd be like, oh my gosh. Um, and then there's a song at the end too that was really kind of lame, and it's all this weird like rock slash reggae mix,
Hmm.
and it's just kind of bizarre. Um, they get some goofy things too. So the movie's called Popcorn, and at the beginning when they're setting up the movie theater, like they pull the sheet off the popcorn machine and it zooms right in on the name Popcorn.
Yeah.
And I was like, ah, they hinted at it. They didn't come out and say it, but that's the title of the movie. I see what they did there. But
Yeah. No, I definitely noted that as well.
yeah. Other random things too is the random guy who shows up. It's like what he called himself, Dr. M or something like that.
Hmm.
And it was just that teacher from or Fast Times at Ridgemont High,
Yeah.
the one who's got it in for Spicoli and like shows up at his house. He's like, you wasted like 6 hours of my time. It's like now I'm here to get it back. I, for some reason, Mr. Hand was his name in Fast Times, but he's really only in this movie for like 3 minutes, and then he just disappears.
Hmm.
I felt like that was kind of random. It's just like, oh, we can get him for like one day. Let's just throw him on here. Another thing that made me laugh too is the part where her mom, where she tells her mom about this guy she saw in this movie that they show. It's like an artistic movie, and his name is Lanyard Gates, which what a name.
Right.
Um, yeah. String around the neck Gates. Lanyard.
The possessor.
Yeah, the possessor. And it's basically just him saying, I am the possessor, I'm the possessor. And then it's like these, like a weird knife, and then a zoom in on his face. And it's just really strange. And then she goes and tells her mom about it, and her mom's just like, she knows exactly who the guy is, and but she's acting like kind of keeping things from her.
I don't know
And
what you're talking about.
yeah, and she goes to the movie theater with she go in like a gun or something like that. She's got like a weapon with her, and she goes in
Yeah.
and she walks up the marquee, and all the letters fly off the marquee at her. I'm like, that is really lame. And then it um shows the possessor up on the marquee,
Yeah,
and it
which
looks like
but
somebody just like colored on it with a marker or something.
yeah, which they never really did explain that because that was like supernatural.
Yeah, it was almost like a Freddy Krueger kind of thing.
Yeah. They had so that was probably the biggest question mark around this whole thing where it's just like I thought it was like a possession thing at the beginning because of how it
Yeah.
was uh going and trending, but then you realize like okay, no, this is just really a person. So then how the heck did they do that with the sign? How did they have the doors open, the ticket come out, the lights keep changing?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then her mom gets like you're like, okay, she dies or something like that. And then it just goes up back to Jill Schoelen's character work waking up and getting ready like to go to the theater and set things up or something. But um I do have to mention that this is at least like our fifth uh Dee Wallace movie that we've done
Oh, okay.
because she was the mom in E.T. She was the mom in Critters. She was in Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2. And then this, like, I guess I didn't realize how many things that Dee Wallace was in.
That's funny.
And she always seems to play a mom. But she's done hundreds of movies, so it doesn't really surprise me. But oh, there's one scene too. So once they finally get the theater set up and Maggie is in the ticket booth handing out tickets and her boyfriend pops up and she's like, um, Mark, hi. I was like, oh, so close. Could have been, oh, hi,
No.
Mark. It was like the first thing that popped in my head. And then he's like with another girl and she like storms off. But
Yeah, that was really stupid. Like
yeah,
him showing up like that.
yeah, like out of nowhere. Well, I guess earlier he's like, talks about how he wants to do it with her. And she's like, oh, like nothing good can come from that kind of thing. And like, I guess that's the reason why he shows up with like this skanky girl, whatever.
Yeah, but still,
But
like he almost was like embarrassed about it then, and he was just like, "Oh no, no, like you weren't supposed to find out." And it's just like, dude, like
you didn't know
she's a
she was gonna be
film,
there.
she's a film person. And you probably had to have seen her at some point in those 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and she would have talked about this. Like, don't act like you didn't know. Like, it was just stupid.
It's like showing up at an ex's to like show off who you're with now or something.
Yeah,
That's basically exactly what it was. But yeah. Uh I guess some of the cool scenes too was just like Toby making the faces that of the people. It kind of reminded me of Tourist Trap a little bit with that,
yeah,
where it's,
yep.
the Tourist Trap was like the wax figures or whatever, and with the plaster and all that, and he's making like latex rubber um faces to put on. And the whole scene with like when he's putting the faces on, like the ears are flopping around and stuff, like it just adds like another level of making it look realistic.
Yeah,
And
no,
a
they
few
did.
times like the faces rip off and it's like kind of cool looking.
Yeah, they did a really good job with those transitions and the concept of making it look like they were masks when it was really just like, the different actors and actresses.
Yeah.
So,
Um, Man, if I was a better podcaster, I would have looked up to see who did the visual effects because they did a really good job in this.
uh,
And I'm assuming like it didn't have a very big budget. I don't have the budget number, by the way. That was just something I could not find. But
yeah.
yeah. Um, let's see some other things, I guess. So there's a part where they lose power and they're like, oh, I know what we can do. We just bring the band up here to waste some time while we get the power back on. I was like, but how is Homeboy with the guitar rocking out? Was he just have that thing full of like 10D batteries? And then there's another dude with a an electric bass. How does that
Yeah.
work?
Nope, definitely did not make sense.
Yeah. Um yeah, so special makeup effects supervisor was Robert Clark. And then there's the special makeup artist was Wayne Toth. I'm not sure what else Wayne Toth did. House of a Thousand Corpses looks like Men in Black, Transformers. So I guess he's got a pretty big um Amazing Spider-Man. So he's got a pretty big IMDb. So that kind of makes sense because his effects are pretty good in this movie.
Rock. Dude, one quick kind of thing on the topic of effects and all that.
Yeah.
Um, you know how you mentioned about them doing the not so subtle nod to popcorn on the popcorn
Yeah.
machine.
Mhm.
I totally thought that they were doing some kind of oh pre-establishing or no, that's not it. Like hint to the later in the movie There's a word I can't think of right now. But
Foreshadowing.
thank you. Foreshadowing. Holy crap. Brain fart. But I think was it Tina? One of the characters, one of the girls, when they were setting up the theater and everything, set up the hot dog machine.
Yeah,
And like she got really close to it and got this really weird look on her face, smiling and all that. And
yeah.
so I was just like, oh my gosh, are they gonna have somebody like where their face gets like torn apart by the hot dog machine? I totally
That'd have been
was
amazing.
I was totally waiting and expecting for that.
No, I believe she just gets strangled and then he uses her like Bernie Lomax.
Yeah. Oh wait, was it Tina or was it the other one?
Are you thinking the
Who's
blonde girl
yeah, who's the
that
blonde
kind of
girl?
looked like a chubbier Madonna or something?
It looked like a girl from Greece.
Yeah, I'm sure what that was all about.
Joy. Joy. That was her
Yeah, there
character's
you
name.
go.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess anything else I have is about kills, so I'll get into those.
Rock.
Um, so the big mosquito prop kills two people. Kills the teacher guy.
Davis.
Yeah, Mr. Davis. And then it kills Toby at the end.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
Yeah, I was like, you already used that one. I could have used something else.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And then we said Tina gets strangled, and then she's used like Bernie Lomax. Um, Bud, the dude in the wheelchair, he gets electrocuted
Hmm.
because they have like these zappers set up to the seat, and like it was almost like Saw. It was like a recording that telling him like once it goes in a sequence, um, then you'll be shocked or something like that. And then it's like, I can't remember the sequence, it says.
Good luck.
So yeah, good luck, basically. And then yeah, he ends up getting electrocuted. And that's when the power went out. Um, and then we get Leon. He's in a bathroom. He's taking a leak, and then like a dude goes and stands next to him like a weirdo. There's like, there's more stalls, bro. There's more urinals. And you're standing right next to this guy. And he's dressed exactly like him. He's got like, a mask of his face on. Then he turns and like pees all over his leg. And then he grabs him and throws him into a stall. And then it's like it's almost like he mixes like bleach and ammonia together to make like gas. Because if you mix those two things together, it'll kill you.
Yeah, well then it blew up though too, or whatever it was.
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what it was, but that's what killed him.
Taco Bell?
Yeah,
He blew up the
colon
toilet.
blow.
Dang
Blew it up.
enchiladas.
Yes. Oh, ooh, baby, hey, baby. Oh man. But yeah, those are the kills. Not a huge kill count, but not always a bad thing. But I guess now what I got is the trivia and facts. There wasn't
Rock.
a whole heck of a lot for this movie.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, it doesn't really get as much of attention that maybe it deserves. Um, but this was such a box office disappointment in the US that many markets it bypassed first run cinemas and was booked directly to second run slash discount cinemas.
Ooh.
Yeah. So after 3 weeks of shooting this movie, actress Amy O'Neill was replaced by Jill Schoelen. Schoelen said that she did not have much interaction with the cast since many of the scenes have already been filmed with O'Neill, and in most cases just needed to do some quick reshoots with Schoelen. So I'm not sure why Amy O'Neill was booted off.
Hmm.
The reason that the teenagers only listened to reggae music in this movie is because it was shot in Jamaica.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. While the film flopped in cinemas, it has become a cult classic among horror fans, largely due to its homage to William Castle and is known for creating theater gags such as the ones that were depicted in Popcorn.
Rock.
The title Popcorn was linked to an element in the story. This element was actually removed before the final cut. The producers and the distributor liked the title so much that they kept it anyway.
Okay, that's
And
weird.
I'm not sure what that element was. So,
It was a box
yeah.
of popcorn.
maybe. So Tom Villard, um, sadly passed away only 3 years after this movie. He told the director Mark Harrier, um, when he took over, that he just found out he had AIDS. It was 2 weeks into production, and then Villar ended up passing away in 1994 with AIDS complication. And he had pneumonia.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I saw that he passed away not too long after, and I was wondering what was going on.
yeah. And I'll give my wife some props. We were watching this movie, and she was just kind of like, reading a book or something on her phone, and every once in a while look up, and she's like, "Oh, hey, that guy's from My Girl,
Huh.
Tom Villard."
Okay.
And I'm like, "Oh yeah, he is. Like he's the hippie boyfriend in that movie."
Hmm.
And then I looked it up. I'm like, "Oh yeah, you were totally right." Because she doesn't usually like pick out actors and stuff. It's always me that's annoying and like I pick out actors. Like, oh, that's just this guy from this thing. But yeah, it caught me off guard. Um, so Derek Rydell, who played Mark in this movie, he did his own stunts. Which I mean,
Okay.
there wasn't a whole heck of a lot. Like he did the whole zip line thing with his belt and he crashed into all that stuff,
Nice.
which caused Toby to die. Um, I mean, for being like the hunky hero guy, he kind of killed Toby in an earnest kind of way, like an Ernest P. Worrell kind of way,
Right.
all by accident. Uh, so the character of Lanyard Gates was very loosely inspired by the eccentric Brazilian filmmaker Jose Mojica Marins.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
who made some interesting movies. Um, Man, I can't remember if he made. I'll have to look him up because I know there's something that I've heard of that he's made, but I don't want to say it and be wrong.
Okay.
And the last thing I got is this movie. I don't know the budget, but it made 4.2 million in a box office.
I mean, that doesn't sound terrible.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the budget was. Like the budget could have been 5 million. I don't know.
True.
Okay, yeah, I was right. So Jose Mujica Marins made the Coffin Joe movies. Um, they're one of them is called At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul. So yeah, this night I'll possess your corpse. Yeah, interesting movies. I figured it had to be that guy because that's the only Brazilian movie I can think of. But,
Gotcha.
so grades, IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes. What do you think they are?
IMDb with how poor it went, what, like 4.5?
5.9.
5.9? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it has kind of a cult following. I actually used to have a popcorn T-shirt. I don't know what happened to it, but I had one.
Hmm.
Rotten
Awesome.
Tomatoes,
Rotten Tomatoes 65%?
38.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah,
Then audience, let's go 49%.
41.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it didn't fare that great. What's your grade? What do you got?
Oh man, okay. Hmm. So kind of an interesting one because it's not anything spectacular, but it does kind of have that cult feel to it. Like I said, definitely kind of made me think of Fade to Black and some different elements like that. So not it didn't make a big splash for me. The performance was great. Um, the performance by Tom was fantastic. Props to him. Um, I mean, the concept is what it was. It was kind of cliche, kind of some common things that we saw connections with some other things. I don't really take that as a negative, just not really as a positive, I guess I would say. The acting was a little average in some cases.
Yeah.
Um, all in all, though, like it flowed pretty well. Like it didn't. I mean, it kind of you kind of had your montage segment there, um,
Yes.
but everything moved pretty smoothly. So I don't know. I'm kind of thinking and comparing it to because I know it's not exactly in the same category as some of the movies that we've already watched this month, or for October, but man, it's just not resonating as much as the others. So I think I'm gonna land at a 3.5 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say it's fair. Pretty close to mine. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5.
Rock.
Um, I realize like it's not a great movie. It does some things that are interesting. I kind of just like the fact that like it's a later slasher movie that tried to put a spin on things. It has some really good has really good performance by Tom Villard in it. I always like Jill Schoelen and everything she's in. I think she's a likable actress. While her acting might not be the greatest, but you like you like care about her characters. So
Mm,
I mean that has to say something for her acting ability.
yeah.
Um, I would say I would consider it above average slasher, not great. I I always like rank my slashers kind of like in an A B C D F thing. I put this like maybe like a B minus or a C. Um, Mostly because it's like it's lesser known. I mean it deserves a little more recognition than it gets, but at the same time it's not anything incredible. So I think a 4 is um pretty fair for it.
Yeah, I was in between 3.5 and a 4. I just kind of felt, like I said, if we were talking about this movie standalone, if this wasn't like in this theme month of October and everything, I may have given it the 4 out of 5.
Hmm.
But just since, this is horror month and everything, and like I said, for me a little bit, it's kind of going up against some of the other movies and everything. I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like,
got some stiff competition.
yeah, everything else that we've had this month just has been um notably better. Some of
Yeah,
them obviously better, but more so notably better. I just didn't feel like I could rank it in the same at the same level as the other movies. So
rock. Yeah, so the next movie, um, I'm interested to get your thoughts on it. This will be the second Italian horror movie that we've done. Not last time, 2 years ago, we did Blood and Black Lace, which is a Giallo movie. This is it's Zombie 2, aka Zombie Flesh Eaters, aka Zombie. It's got many titles. Yeah, it's an Italian zombie movie made by Lucio Fulci, which his movies have a certain style to them. He's got like some pretty solid gore in it, and they're kind of interesting Italian movies because how the dialogue is done. I can get more into that um next episode, but yeah, I'm interested to get your thoughts on that one.
rock.
Um, yeah, if you guys are liking the show, just please subscribe and share. Um, Follow us on social media. We're on pretty much every platform. If you want to watch some more content or something, we got a fair amount on Twitter and on YouTube right now. And leave a review. We can mention you on the show. You can, geez, we can pretty much find us everywhere. So if you want to review us on Spotify or Apple Podcast, uh, odds are we'll probably see it. So go ahead and do that. Come by next time. We're going to be talking about Zombie 2. And until then, as always, be kind and rewind.